Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the first podcast of May. This is actually the 10th episode or 11th episode of Discussions. But this is going to be a more casual slash internal one. We're going to be talking a lot more about what's been going on with Discussions, not what content's been posting on Discussions. Well, a lot of it has to do with the content that's been posted on Discussion as well, as we have been getting a lot of community feedback from our users. So the big thing is that we are starting to wrap up our 2.5. So if you don't know, 2.5 is kind of our push to kind of refine the product. So we went from 1.0, which was like a big clunky thing, to 2.0, which kind of smoothed out a lot of the login process and posting. And 2.5 is kind of a refinement on top of that, and we're just wrapping that up. So as we wrap up 2.5, the next big thing to look forward to is staking 2.0. And to explain staking 2.0 and how it's going to come into play with everything else, we have Brian Paul to explain it.
Yep. So the next big thing is ATMOS 2.0 staking rewards. We're planning on launching it towards the mid-June after Discussions 2.5 is finished, or we'll be launching it together with 2.5. The amount of the rewards that we're going to be paying out is going to last approximately 10 years, and the main purpose is to reward stakers on a time-based period. So the longer that period that people stake their tokens for, the higher the percentage of rewards that they receive. So we assign a higher weight to people who stake on a locked-in period.
So we model
So
this
for
out. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. So for example, if 10 million ATMOS were staked, your APR will be around 5%. And this model was based off of the Ethereum rewards model. So the more people staking, the more secure the network. So the amount of payouts would be reduced if more tokens are being staked. So if you're like the first stakers with a long lock-in period, you'll receive the highest amount of rewards.
So yeah, this is kind of our mechanism to kind of reward the smaller token holders that are with us, long-term holders that might not have as many atmos as the whales. We still want to reward those users for staying with the project, staying engaged, staking the atmos, and kind of get going us through this crazy cryptocurrency up and down. So that's what we came up with for that. Do you have anything to add to that, Paul?
Yeah, so I was going to say that the important part about this 2.0 staking is it lays the groundwork for a couple things that are pretty critical for a lot of future development. And one of those things is that the way that our reputation system works is going to be based around a system where the amount of Atmos that you have locked up determines the amount of reputation that your upvotes are worth. So if you upvote content and you have lots of Atmos staked, or I should say your weight is fairly high, you're going to be providing a higher reputation for the content you upvote, because the idea is that you're part of the kind of foundation of the system, and you have a lot at stake, that making sure that the system is generating quality content. So you will earn more of our aura reputation by having lots of Atmos staked or having a higher staking weight, and you will also provide more to people that you upvote. So this is kind of critical that this 2.0 is put into place, so that we can move into having the reputation system. And then the next kind of big piece of this is the 3.0 version of staking is actually where our security for our side state is, it's critical that we have a broad base of staking. So 2.0 will allow us to start seeing, what kind of percentage of Atmos is staked, and how long it's locked up for, and then can give us an idea about what we need to do in order to get ready for 3.0. So it's kind of a stepping stone, I think, for the broader goals of the project.
Right. So just to put a bit of context, because I don't think Jimmy has been too deep into the weeds with discussion yet. So the goal of discussions is to have a decentralized form or kind of communication platform, which is the ultimate goal of discussions. But to do that, we have to make sure that the system is resilient. So with staking 3.0, what users are gonna do, or power users are will want to do, is actually run an Atmos DB. Atmos DB is, you can think of it as an Atmos node. And once you run the node, it keeps a copy of the database of the posts of everything that happens on discussions, and anyone could kind of tap into that should the main discussion node go down. So just a way to decentralize, keep the service resilient, and yeah, and you get rewarded ATMOS for running these nodes, so you incentivize to run them. Again, it's part of the reason why we kind of model after the Ethereum model, just because they're doing something similar. It's not exactly like proof of stake, or there's a little bit of that, but yeah, it's just to make sure that
The reward model kind of models the proof of stake, like the amount of rewards you
yeah.
receive, but it's not backed off of the exact numbers of how many nodes are being run.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly.
So we'll post details about staking 2.0 on the Discussions website sometime this week.
Yeah.
So please check it out.
Yeah. Sounds great. And other things that we want to talk about is actually the UI UX. People have been giving a lot of feedback, and we've been giving out a lot of tips on the UI UX. We love to see user input on the form itself. So it is great. Keep them coming. Keep the suggestions coming.
Mhm.
Can't promise we'll implement them all relative, in a timely manner, just because we have quite a big backlog still. With discussions too. One of the biggest thing that's coming up is the ambassador program. So the ambassador program, we try to still find like a better name for it, but what it does essentially is allow you to kind of participate and become a ambassador of the different partners that we have on the platform. Blockbase being one of the main one, and it's the one we're collaborating to build out this system. So with the ambassador program, when Blockbase makes a post and you tweet it out, based on the amount of likes and retweets you get on your tweet, you actually get some BBT token reward on your Unified ID account. So it's just a way to kind of very simply incentivize people sharing content about different projects. We will be using it for ATMOS, for discussions. So again, it's just to encourage users to share discussions content far and wide. We are thinking about a lot more interesting stuff that can be done with it. One of the big things about this program is that we will integrate a little bit more social media functionality into discussions. So if you're on discussions for any time at all, you notice that we support Twitter posts, we support Telegram messages. That's the idea of discussion is a social media aggregation platform. So it makes sense to kind of make sure that it plays well with all these social media platforms. It is our way of lowering the barrier entry for users. They don't have to cut off their connection on Twitter. They don't have to stop using Telegram. They can enjoy all the sources of information and connection while still using discussions.
Yeah, I'd also say, Jack, that it's a very good way of helping people establish a beachhead on discussions, because they can create a post and then they can have a crowdsource the sort of effort to drive attention from Twitter and from other social media platforms back to discussions, and help them build an audience kind of natively on the blockchain. So I think it's a pretty useful and unique tool that it's going to be pretty interesting if projects are able to utilize it to build their audience here, which allows I think, a better interactions. I mean, Twitter is always going to be somewhat limited. A third party is going to come in. If you want to tip people, you're going to have to use a service that is not really native to Twitter, or beg Twitter to support your blockchain if they ever go that route. Whereas you're on discussions and you start building an audience and you have a native capabilities. Your users, who are your social media users, suddenly become your actual product users, particularly if you integrate Unified ID into your platform. So I think it's a pretty cool thing. I'm pretty excited for it to launch, because it's been kind of worked on, I think, we haven't given it a lot of public attention, and it's sort of this kind of low key thing, but it could be really big, because I do think there's a void in the marketplace for a connector like that.
Yeah, agree. And it's one of the first collaborations we are working on with our partners. We pick our partners very carefully. Once we do pick our partners, it's not just like an announcement post, right? We work with them to integrate our technology into their platform. Again, working with Blockbase on this technology with MPT and Boy and Pummel, that more will come. One of the really cool things that is kind of come right after the ambassador program is the ability for you to pay tokens for EOS account creation. So you can imagine if you're someone who's new to blockchain, you don't know quite understand what the whole deal is, and you see all these different projects on Discussions, and you don't have an EOS account yet. Well, you can now kind of apply to be ambassador, tweet out a few tweets, like get some tips get some reward from the ambassador program, and you could create your EOS account right away. So again, this is like us EOS. I keep saying EOS discussion. Discussion being that gateway for you to kind of enter into the EOS ecosystem, and it just really lowers that barrier entry. Projects because they could subsidize accounts, but a lot of times that gets abused. We have experienced that before. All the wallet providers that try to do that have experienced that before. With this ambassador program, you kind of filter out a lot of the bots because again, they need to have a Twitter account, they need to be tweeting, they need to be sharing in order to actually get these tokens. So I think this would be actually a great system for the EOS ecosystem as a whole. If more and more projects adopt it, onboarding is going to be a lot easier. Hopefully, get more EOS accounts, into people's hands, and they can actually start engaging with these applications instead of sitting there waiting for, Apple or Google to support EOS account, which is not going to happen anytime soon. So.
Yeah, agreed.
Yep.
And after that, another huge thing to do on our to-do list is the mobile UI UX. So again, we've been hearing your complaints. Mobile is is almost over half of our readership. I don't know how you guys deal with the current UI UX. It is horrendous. I feel for you. But that's just the nature of the project. We have limited resources, and we had to make sure that at least one of them is very good. And we chose to focus on the desktop. But mobile UI UX is coming. Jenny, our amazing social media Twitter marketer, is only on mobile UI UX. So she's been telling me get it done. I was like, yes, soon. So I'm excited for that to come. And yeah, I think that's everything I have to cover.
Yeah, I'm also one of those people who mobile is a big part of it for me. I mean, I would be much more inclined to be engaging if I had mobile, particularly once I think the ambassador program comes out. I think we'll see people jumping back and forth between tweeting stuff about projects and then getting back into discussions with people who've been redirected now to discussions. Most of them are coming off Twitter. I mean, I've never used Twitter on a desktop, so I don't even know what that looks like. But I would have guessed that most people use it on a mobile device, and they come into discussions, and if they come in and it's all, kind of it's readable but unusable, it's a problem. So I think this is going to be it'll be a big step up for engagement for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, and then there's a whole bunch of miscellaneous stuff. We do have some very excited stuff planned that's coming right after 2.5. I'm not sure how much detail I could go into that, but it would make getting your hands on tokens a lot easier. I'm just gonna leave that at that. I think it's gonna be great. Again, a lot of things that we're building for discussions, we're building half for ourselves, but half for the community, right? Like we want discussions to be the home of token communities, and we're building a lot of these tools to lower the barrier entry to get people in the door and really experience what a decentralized application could be. And we hope a lot of projects adopt kind of our approach and kind of smooth the onboarding process. And just to talk about like beyond 2.5 and going to 3.0, we mentioned a little bit before where the end goal is to kind of decentralize discussions. And that doesn't only mean the back end, it means the front end as well. And we saw someone that mentioned on discussions and our GitHub that, I want to run a front end of discussions. The smart contracts online, the front end is open source. How can I do that easily? Currently, you can't really do it super easily. That was the case with 1.0, but what we saw is that doing it that way really slowed down our development process. We couldn't get the updates out fast enough. We just couldn't reiterate on the product quickly enough to to a point where it provides a good experience. With 2.0 and 2.5, we have a pretty good experience, and we're looking to kind of modularize and break it down to components where we'll make it easier for people to kind of say, hey, I like Discussions. I like their front end. I like what they're doing in terms of the decentralizing the software. But I want to do my own niche version of it. Let's say I want to do gardening, right? Gardening is not a huge topic on Discussions, unfortunately. So you might not want to do that. You might not want to post on discussions about gardening. You say, okay, I'm gonna have my own gardening forum. You would be able to spin up your own discussion front end with your own domain and just kind of tie that blockchain integration into it. Gardening is maybe not the best use case, but I don't know.
Well,
There's a thousand things that you could do with it.
I mean, I think one of the obvious ones is like a project has their own web domain that they're using for various things on their project, and being able to embed um, a a sort of minimized front end that just matches to the what's on discussions, but it's sort of just framed in their own stuff, and it's set up with the default moderation that they want.
Yeah,
Like that is a huge thing. So in terms of like projects building community on discussions, this is the other half of it. It's like now those community can be going to our site, or they can be going directly to the project, and the forum that's there is a mirror of what we've got going on, but just in a format that works better for their site. So I think that's the other
yeah,
big piece of this, is kind of
yeah.
closing that loop.
I think like another thing that we could see what will happen is like projects like PixEOS actually take our front end and just dedicate it exclusively for their content and maybe integrate NFT into them. And then because we have this ambassador program built in, they can actually use it to kind of engage their projects. And again, we select our partners very carefully on discussions at the moment. So a lot of projects that might want to use the same system, we might we might not be able to support them right away, but they could spin up their own front end and start engaging it. And then once we think their project is ready, we can just plug right in and have that community engagement cross domain, because again, everything's recorded on the blockchain. You can interact with each other. There's no barrier in that sense.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good, it's a good point. That this is sort of allowing people to roll their own again is a good, is definitely the ultimate direction. Um, I have to say, I think there's been some cool posts on discussions over the past. I guess it's been over maybe a week and a half.
Yeah.
A couple good posts by the castle.
Yeah. This is not financial advice, in case you're listening. If you think about investing, but I
Yeah,
agree with Castle. I think ATMOS is undervalued.
yeah. I mean, I think he lays it out in his video. I think it's a reasonable thing. I mean, obviously we're biased. We're dedicating a lot of our time to this project, but it is this we know things have been fairly under the radar, and we kind of know the state of things. So, but I feel like the development curve we're starting to finally get to the place where things are very usable. The refinements of the UI UX are really good, and I think once we plug in those final couple pieces with mobile and a couple other things, I think we'll be in a place where we compete really well against pretty much everything that's out there. So
Yeah.
I also like so I like all the UI UX suggestions that were made. There's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
I think there's End User Plus Ultra and Robot Overlord both had posts that were had some UI UX tweaks that I think some of the stuff we had talked about internally, but a lot of particularly End User Plus Ultra is like very like into the weeds on spacing and things like that. That's the kind of stuff that like at this point we barely see anymore because we're just
Yeah.
our eyes are kind of like too used
Adjust.
to looking at it. So
Yeah.
it was good to have someone with fresh eyes like kind of pick apart like, yeah, look, this should be more consistent, like all that stuff.
Yeah.
Keep us on task with making sure the product keeps refining, which is great.
Yeah.
And those little things are easy to overlook when you're really focused on big picture stuff. So I think it's yeah, so I'm really appreciative actually that he posted that. So yeah, that was good. And then I think another piece that we can tease is Wuhan virus asked if ads will come to discussions. And the answer, short answer is yes. We do have a system, but it's more than just a yes, because this isn't typical monetizing a platform by selling off user data or any of that stuff. Because I mean, at the end of the day, we're not really interested in user data. we're interested in user interaction and how how people build put quality posts out there and things like that. But our ad system is designed to keep users very much in the driver's seat. So we're not like interested in an ad system that is exploitive to anyone or is annoying. So it will follow the same basic premise that we've laid out for discussions, which is user empowered moderation. But I think we'll probably do some more detailed posts about the ad system because we are still very much refining it. And as we said, like this is all an iterative process, like stuff builds on top of other stuff. And the ad system we can probably put out in a very simplified format, and then it will get better just as we've kind of improved other parts of the experience. So we'll probably have a fairly like minimalized ad system that comes out, and then as our reputation system comes online, that'll allow us to make the ad system a little bit more complex and a little bit more refined. So but yeah, I thought that was I think there were some decent conversations that have started. So it's good to see. I'm seeing some new faces, and there's definitely some new perspectives coming, which I think at the end of the day it helps us figure out what people want when this kind of conversation is happening on chain and with people who are actually using it. So that's good.
Yeah. What I thought was really interesting is that I think it was like Coronavirus Cantina. I think was her name. She's like, okay, well, I stumbled on discussions from Reddit, and I started using it, and I had no idea there's any cryptocurrency blockchain stuff tied to it. And I think that was kind of great, because I feel like a lot of projects either when people say, okay, yeah, this is like a blockchain application, it means two things. One is horribly unusable, or two, they just like stuff crypto tokens, in your face, right? So I'm very happy. I'm very happy with the fact that people just kind of stumble on a website, either do a piece of content, or something, and then just kind of discover on their own. Like she mentioned that she wants to get an EOS account and start, kind of learning about what this whole EOS cryptocurrency thing is about. And I think that's like I see that as like that's amazing. That's kind of what drives me, like building out this platform, making it easy to use, making it just user friendly and just easy to get started.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of interesting to think about hey, this is to get this just to compete like apples to apples against another site. That the idea isn't we can only attract crypto people because like they are really interested in X, Y, and Z. It has to be decentralized, has to be whatever. And our experience has told us that like most of that doesn't really matter. Most of the crypto world is like, well, it's decentralized enough. Is this going to pump my token price? Like that's a lot of the Ethereum projects we've witnessed that like start off with really good intentions and then ultimately run into the problems that underlie the architecture of Ethereum, and the problem that you can't do anything on chain without nickel and diming people, and that leads to a degraded user experience. So you can't attract new people. And I think it's kind of interesting because we're actually in a position we're able to offer, besides a sort of like cryptic login system, which is like a little different than people are used to. Once you get past that, it's like this just is a forum. This is something you can do, and then you start clicking around and exploring it. And that is probably one thing we need to do a better job at it, to some degree, is having here's an explanation of X, Y, and Z. Here, find ways to guide people through the experience a little bit more. But part of that is we're still adding things so often that it's hard to build a guide when you keep adding new features. But yeah, I love that. I love that as well, that someone's able to come on and just start using it and being like, oh, this is kind of interesting. There's not a lot going on, but like it's cool. So that's a pretty interesting piece there. And that is actually a lot of the goals that I have with this stuff is like, can we make this just feel normal? Normalize just using things that are
just like scrolling to it and upvoting and commenting.
Yeah.
And just not having to worry about having to pay gas fees or whether my CPU is running out, which is
I know.
this
That's the
is
other interesting
ridiculous.
part. Like half the posts on Reddit are people coming and saying, "Hey, I can't move. I don't know how to do anything on EOS. Like every time I try to do something, it tells me I can't." It's like, yeah, no, that's true. It's a problem. So that's the other piece. Like we've taken the shortcomings with EOS, the arcane way of getting an account, managing CPU. It's like all that stuff, and we've just erased it from from having to do it while not sacrificing the idea that you're actually fully on chain, which is, I think, huge.
So
Yeah.
if I could interject for a minute, because I've been listening, and some of this is new to me, some of it's things that I've kind of figured out on my own, but I think there's a couple really interesting things here. The first, like you said, is the gas fee kind of staked resources debate, right? And different people have different ideas on what is better and why. And I think in the future, I think the staked resource debate will win out, especially when gas prices go exorbitantly crazy, which is probably why Ethereum in general is looking to make that move.
I mean, like, it's really killed two of their most prominent projects, CryptoKitty and DeFi MakerDAO. Like, those projects have been killed by gas fee, in my opinion. So I don't see how you could build like a sustainable ecosystem on top of that.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I mean, we're early days, so it's all worked fine till now. But yeah, what I wanted to say was, one of the big problems. I'm not exactly sure what you can answer on this podcast, what's public knowledge or not. But one of the big problems, from my perspective, is, when you create an EOS account, even just the creation of an EOS account. I mean, back in the day when EOS first started, there were all these mobile wallet companies that were essentially just gifting people the basic CPU to be able to get on and use the system, which was great. But like you said, it caused a big problem because there was a lot of people kind of taking advantage and signing up for multiple accounts. And this is a bit of an issue, right? But I think I just put together a series of articles on how to get an EOS account and things like this, and it's still so complicated, right? Because you're always using this like third party system to be able to, even if it's down to like something like PayPal, you still have to log in, you still have to send your funds, you still have to approve, and I mean, we live in the day of like internet technology where essentially you sign up for an account, you click some button on your email, and then you're in, whether it be Reddit or whether it be whatever. That's all it takes, right? And this is where I think blockchain has to come to. So my question to you is, I really like the idea that you're planning on integrating the account creation process in the Discussions app in general. I'm just wondering, like, you're not, when you're thinking about doing this will be all an internal service, right? The idea is not to have a third-party application that needs to be used. I mean, essentially, you'll be able to do it within the EOS wallet. Is that what you're
You'll be able to do it. You'll be able to do it on the Discussion website itself. You would have. We are looking. The tricky part is that we are looking for a wallet provider that's willing to work with us, because right now, obviously, we have a brain key, right, and private key. So that is a problem that we still have to figure out. But no, like once you browse in the forum, we're gonna implement a lot more ways to kind of reward users just interacting with projects. You're gonna be able to say, okay, now I have 100 ATMOS or how much ever is needed, 100 BBT. I could go redeem an EOS account on the forum and put in your username that you wanted. Ideally, it would even be more seamless than that. If you have a wallet provider that's willing to work with us, work out the details, you won't even know that you had an EOS account. And then you would be able to kind of magically start using EOS applications again with the help of our wallet provider that we're talking to a few, hopefully work out the kinks. And you just start using it. You don't have to worry about, transporting private keys and whatnot. It would just work. That's the end goal, at least.
Yeah, I mean, in conjunction too, right? Like, we also have the system that allows you to, interact obviously with only our application right now, with almost full, functionality in terms of like, hey, well, like Unified ID allows you to interact with Discussions as if you have an EOS account. Allows you to transfer tokens, tip people, all that stuff. So, there's a couple things at play there, I think, where you have an ecosystem of EOS accounts, and then you also have an ecosystem where people start supporting a standard that's open and allows projects to pay for their users' use very easily. And that's part of why our reputation system is going to be kind of critical, because your choice to pay for a user's transactions or use of your system might depend on what kind of reputation that user has. So that's all kind of, I think they're all kind of interrelated and interconnected in that sense. And we'd like to, make it those so you could just come to the site, you could create a unified ID, you could start getting involved, you could earn tokens through various things. And then ultimately, if you need to create an account, it's a push button operation. There's no, it's essentially pay a fee, or a project pays for your account if they just determine that you're, worth bringing into their ecosystem.
Yeah, I think Paul, is kind of hit up on the right point, which is the end goal. Like we're doing a lot of complicated stuff in the back, right? The account creation process, the ambassador program, a lot of different pieces. But the front end the end user experience should be that I go to discussion, I heard about these EOS projects or blockchain projects in general, because discussion do plan to go multi-chain. Once we figure out how to provide the best user experience possible, you go on discussions, you start engaging, maybe using reading, uploading, some minimal process that will get you enough reputation and resources to get started. You won't have to, again, you don't have to worry about CPU. You won't have to worry. You see a game that you like, you would just go and you just play it. And on the back, we've been working with our partners based on their reputations. Like, okay, well, this is a credible user. It's a real user. It's not a bot. He has verified, that he has a Twitter account. Maybe he has engaged with some other projects before. He's a valuable user. He's a user that's worth it for you to invest subsidizing your resources in. So that's going to happen in the back. And for the user, the thing's just going to work. And it's just going to be magical. And it's going to be amazing.
Yeah. I mean, and a stepping stone I should point out is like, even the fact that like right now, if you have EOS, let's say in Coinbase, but you don't have an EOS account, you just have it in Coinbase, so you bought it. What do you do? That takes, okay, well, I got to send, it's a bit more complicated than it should be. There's no way to just say, send money to a private key and then have that, take a piece of that and turn it into an account. Whereas with what we've built with Unified ID, the missing piece right now is like you can send that EOS from Coinbase to your Unified ID, but now there's no way to like, do anything with it. And that's that other stepping stone, which will be, okay, now I have the funds because I just sent it to myself, create me an account. So, that's a less complex version that will probably come before anything else does.
So yeah, Jamie, what do you think? We've been kind of talking at you a lot.
Maybe you want to bust out the pom-poms because you got a bit of a cheerleader rant coming here. But on the back of what was just said, I think it's quite interesting because from my experience on discussions, I think signing up for an account and just interacting on the platform is one of the easiest things out there to do already. But one of the issues a lot of times is that most projects that are on blockchain, they're built primarily for blockchain users, and EOS is no exception, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I can sign up for a discussions account, and unless I want to cash in my tokens per se, or charge my account, there's actually no reason for me to leave the app, which is actually, in my opinion, opposite of what most other platforms out there do, no matter where they put themselves on the spectrum of blockchain. I mean, so I think that's quite unique, and that I think that's really cool that people at this point right now can sign up for a discussions account, and it's not optimal, but they can sign up for a discussions account and never worry about blockchain other than that first kind of registration process. So I think that's something that you guys did right. And so, pushing that forward to the next step where they can actually use that initial account that they signed up for with your platform to branch out into the crypto. That's essentially the honeypot of what needs to happen in crypto in general, I think. So that's a really well thought out kind of idea.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, glad that it's coming through. I think it's for us, it's been a little hard to see all this because we're like in the weeds on like, okay, development and making it easy to use, but that is in the back of our minds. That's always been where we're trying to go with it. Like, can we make it so people will actually use this? And we know like part of our reason to go multi-chain is because we can get more people involved in our project who aren't on EOS. They might be on a sister chain, or they might be on completely different blockchain. And ultimately, if our technology works across with their, works with the stuff that they're in, they're going to be interested. So, just building building sort of bridges to everywhere we can. But obviously, the hugest bridge that crypto still needs to do is build it to the regular world, to the normies, so to speak. So, I think it should be the duty of most of the projects to try to figure out ways of doing that.
Yeah, and I think you could probably even go one step further. I mean, it doesn't matter whether they're on EOS, it doesn't matter whether they're on Ethereum. I mean, they might be on Facebook,
Right.
and and that offers them an avenue into crypto without even knowing it. In a sense, I think that's really cool. So I have one question, which I do need to ask. Just because I've been thinking about this since the beginning. When dark mode?
Yeah, that's almost like we should at this point never do dark mode, because it's like at this point it's almost a
meme.
So it's probably no secret, but we're a little bit constrained with front end development because we don't have a person committed full time. They're both the front end developers we've used have always had day jobs, so it's not like we have someone hammering away 40 hours a week on our front end work. And if Asphyxia, our main developer, and kind of the person who envisioned everything, will be the first to tell you that he doesn't do front end. So it's not, that's just one of those things where we're all these features we want to do. I mean, look, I nothing I do in this world has anything but dark mode. So I feel your pain, because I'm like, I can't deal. Like, I look at dark mode for everything, and things that don't have dark mode really bother me. So it's hard that I'm on a, part of a project that we don't have dark mode yet.
Jimmy, I promise you, dark mode coming 3.0. Can't say when 3.0 is coming, but coming 3.0.
I mean, it's just one of those, kind of things that keeps popping up for every project. But I think it really, even within the crypto space, it really shows where we're at, because, what people want most of the time are just these really simple things. When will you have an app? I mean, even though it might work fine on mobile, right? But when will you have an app, or when will you have dark mode? And I think in the end, we're all crypto people at this point, most of us. But in the end, these are the things that are going to matter to the population who isn't yet a part of crypto, right? They don't care about a lot of the things that we care about, in a sense. So I think that's just really interesting way to look at it from my perspective, right? Like, you have teams like yourselves that have been working hard in the background, trying to put this together and trying to pull off, something amazing, something great, something revolutionary, a new way to interact with other people via integration with blockchain. And still, the largest question is just give me dark mode and I'm happy. I mean, people are really simple to please, really.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I actually, I thought about this. I'm, it's like one of those things where I kind of want to have it be removed completely from our roadmap and just do it one day. Like, we're doing dark mode. Like,
Just dark mode.
It's just, this is all we're worried about, because it is one of those things that I think it gets asked a lot, and it would be it just appears one day overnight without anyone talking about it. That's, at the end of the day, that would be a way of doing it, where to just say, okay, all resources towards dark mode. We're not doing anything else. We're not meeting. We're not doing anything else. That's all we're doing. But no, I've even, I'm not a coder, so for me, it's like, I'm like thinking about ways I can help push it, but I don't, my interactions on GitHub, I'm like, well, would this do it? And it's like a dark mode any website that you just type in the URL and it spits out some CSS. And our front end guy's like, yeah, that's not going to work. So, I'm trying, but I agree with you. I do think a lot of the little things are what are important, and that's actually why I was really happy to see these UI UX criticisms that are like, look, this should be consistent. This tweak here, this tweak there, because it's really easy for us to forget the fact that we have to build this for people, and there's a an expectation when you look at a website that it matches what you're currently used to, and that is cutting edge high-end design. So we always have to keep our eye on that piece of this.
Well, I mean, from my perspective, there's nothing broken. So when you get the implementations done, that's fair enough, I think. I mean, if you're building something from scratch. I've never run into any major issues actually with the platform, which is nice and very uncommon in this space, to be honest. So
You haven't run into them because I ran into all of them.
yeah,
and
fair enough.
open all the GitHub issues.
Yeah. No, but I mean, we have like I will agree that we have a fairly fast way of addressing problems, and
Very reliable website too.
yeah, for being a small scrappy team. I mean, this is actually mostly because we have Asphyxia does an incredible job, I think, of operating within the way our team functions, and wrangling this stuff kind of without us having to do much about it. So even though he won't talk on these meetings.
He did promise he will talk at our next meeting, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I gotta get going, guys. Good discussion though, for sure. Is there anything else?
5 minutes of a discussion cheerleading. I think we need
Yeah,
this.
well, that's what we need that sometimes,
Yeah, it's funny because someone commented on the Reddit. It's like, yeah, you guys need to show more discussions in ATMOS. So I was like, okay, yeah, sure, we do that. Like, no problem.
It's true. Take some time for ourselves.
Yeah.
So the big points though, we got. I mean, 2.5. It looks like we're on track. Our goal was to finish it mid-June. We're in really good shape, and we didn't leave just all the hard things to the end. It's been a pretty good mix of tackling some sizable problems. I think the biggest hurdle now left would really be wrapping up the ambassador program and then getting the mobile UI hammered out, which is no small thing, but it's certainly a doable thing in the time frame we have. So I'm pretty excited for what the summer will bring, for sure.
Okay, so let's call it a wrap. I want to thank you, team, for coming on, and Jimmy was our honorary team member now because I don't think he's missed a single podcast. So yeah, thank you all
Thanks for coming, Jimmy.
No, thank you for having me. I mean, it's good. It gets me up in the morning with some productivity under my belt. I like it.
Nice.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it because we get like a different perspective as well.
Next week.
All right, bye.
All right, take care, everyone.